I don't know. I'm feeling like I might need to predict what's going to happen here.
Okay, well let's do this first. First, this is another cage match. Dun dun dun. All right.
So we
Ringside
have
commentary. Ringside commentary.
Duncan versus Dave with yours truly as the ringside commentator. We'll see if I can predict it, and we'll see if you can beat it.
Maybe I can win. You never know. I have already seen this before, so I have a slight advantage.
Okay, I have not seen this. I did not watch this clip, so I'm going to give my prediction totally cold.
Totally cold. So he's going to do guys calling in about Social Security. Are you ready to rumble?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Tracy's with us in Billings, Montana. Hi, Tracy. Welcome to the Dave Ramsey
Hey,
Show.
Dave.
What's up?
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Sure.
I'm 61 years old, and I keep getting these letters from Social Security wanting to know what I want to do. And, I'm still working.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on baby step 7.
Mm-hmm.
I am married.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know, when is the best time to take advantage of that fantastic program?
I sense sarcasm, Tracy.
You sense correct.
Well, I mean, the trick to knowing when to take Social Security is to know when you're going to die. And once you got that.
Okay. So, Tracy from Billings, Montana, 61, still working, married. He's on baby step 7, so no debt.
Means
He has no debt.
He has no debt, which includes also the house. We're not just talking consumer debt. He also doesn't have debt on his home either.
No personal debt.
No personal debt, fully funded emergency savings, and he's living and giving like nobody else.
And he wants to know what he should do because he can collect it. He can file for it next year. What should he do? And Dave has made a good point. It is a good point. The only way you can really predict how much you're going to get in Social Security is if you know when you're going to die. That's true. But that's any sort of annuity, which Social Security is.
You know what? That is true, and that is an honest to God sort of the Russian roulette of that whole thing, right? And choosing when to take it is because you are sort of guessing on your own health and mortality and.
Well, not entirely, and I'll get into that in a second. But let's see if Dave picks up on it first. Go ahead.
I might have my own commentary about that, but I think I'll wait because it might be more pertinent later.
All right.
So I already have a little bit of a prediction, but I don't know if I should make it now or if I should wait. But I have my ringside commentary.
You want to give it another minute, or are you ready to go?
So, since I haven't seen this clip, I'm not sure the best time is. So I'm going to say right now, I'm going to give what I think is about to happen right now. So at some point in here, I believe that Dave is going to say that he should take it at 62 as early as possible.
Okay.
That's my prediction. Dave has a leaning toward taking it at 62 as early as possible. He thinks it's a terrible program, and he thinks that you should extract what you can as soon as humanly possible. Even though it might be the lower paycheck, he has a little bit of a tendency to say, yank it out as soon as you can.
Okay, let's see what he says.
Yep.
That figured out, then you can calculate it precisely. Okay. Obviously, the longer you live, the better it is mathematically to take it later, because you're going to get a bigger check for a longer period of time. Okay.
Can I throw something else in there?
Sure.
I was actually intending to, I don't need it, so I was intending to invest 100% of it. However, then I found out that I don't get the full amount if I start early. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right, yeah, you don't. And the later you start, whether.
All right. Now we've added a caveat. The caveat is he wants to take it early and invest the money. What do you think Dave's going to say?
Commentary. I think Dave goes for that all day long.
Can I tell you why Dave is 100% wrong?
Well, no, you can't, because we have to hear what Dave says first.
Okay. I'll tell you why I'll tell you why.
Duncan, you have to let him be wrong before you can tell us why he's wrong.
He's trying to use his third eye on this one, and it's not going to happen.
Hey, what? I have a very in tune third eye. Thank you very much.
Well, no, Dave's trying. Dave thinks he's an X-Man and he can like shoot lasers or something. I don't. That's what this move is going to be.
Okay. All right. Fine. Different third eye. Here we go.
62 all the way up to 70. The later you start, every year you would get more. Okay, but if you run some math out, you can actually run the calculations on their site. It's fairly easy to do. If you run the math out in your situation and you say, okay, I could take it at 66 or 67 and I would get this amount. Okay, and if I took it at 62, I'm going to get a different amount, X versus Y. You follow me? And the difference in those could be made up almost every time. You can run the numbers on it by taking every dollar from 62 to 66 that you get and put it in a good investment. The investment returns will give you greater than the difference for the rest of your life. Almost every time. So it usually makes sense to take it early if you're going to do what you're going to do, which is invest every bit of it and let it run. Now, taxation comes into play when you're still working. All those other things come into play. You got to look at that and figure out how much you're actually going to net, fooling around with whether you're going to make it taxable by your income and all that garbage. But aside from that, the basic concept is that you can get a better rate of return than they will pay you by waiting, so that you take the total amount between that 4 years of X number of dollars a month into a good mutual fund. Will then, from the rest of your life, that one account will make you more than enough to cover up the difference between your 66 account and your 62 account.
Okay.
Oh, that was so predictable.
Yes, you call it. Take it out and invest it. Now.
Yep. All day long he's going to do that. He hates that program.
Oh, yeah.
He will tell members of the clergy that they should not pay into it because they actually technically can get an exemption for it. He will tell them that.
Yeah, some civil servants can too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, they always regret it later, but yeah.
And we'll make that recommendation. The points that he cites, I won't even say they're necessarily terrible points, but this is assuming people on their own are going to be able to save enough 100% completely on their own devices. And I want that to be true, but if I can have.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news. No, all of his points are terrible points. And I know you're not.
It's nicer than you are, Duncan. I feel like that just might be a thing. I don't know.
No, it's a fact. So, I know you don't know the Social Security as well as I do, but.
Well, you know what? I'm not a Social Security idiot. I'm just saying.
No, I know. But you would know the guys.
You could always have your strategy plan 20 years before you need it, right?
Yeah, but I've applied for Social Security like over 200 times for clients, so I am very familiar with how this works. Right now, if you make more than $560 a year, right? At 62, if you make more than that, you're still working, right? They reduce the Social Security by $1 out of every $2 you make over that. So, essentially, right, if this guy's still working and he tries to collect Social Security at 62, he can file for it, but they won't let him collect it until he's A, either not working, or B, full retirement age at 67, not 66, like Dave said. So he can't even touch this money unless he quits his job. So the idea that he could take this money and invest it, not while he's working. And since he doesn't need it, it's probably because he's still planning on working. So he can't even take the money to invest it. So to talk about taking and investing in it, what it's going to do, it's a totally meaningless thing to discuss. It's like, it would be like me discussing, where I want to take my honeymoon with Amelia Clark. See, here we are going on our honeymoon. That's our graphics budget, by the way, for the month.
Then you just revealed how much money is in our non-existent joint bank account. And
hey, but I got to live the fantasy for about 3 seconds there, so you know.
For about seconds, I feel like that was the opportunity to tell people where they can send us money or something. But
yeah, we can. Yeah, well, we don't have that set up yet, so
we don't even have that. We're so low budget. We don't even have you to send.
We're not begging for cash yet. We'll get there.
You know, someday we hope we can beg you all for cash.
Right.
But we're not doing that right now. Right now, we're doing this for fun and free.
Right.
Whatever that's about.
But the odds that this guy can collect Social Security at 62 and still work are less than me marrying Amelia Clark. I'm just saying. I have better odds.
Crap on a cracker, man. You've already got like nothing.
Yeah, I know. His is impossible. Mine's just incredibly improbable.
Am I supposed to be nicer to you than that?
No, I'm just saying she could get like, you know, hit in the head or or you know, have a mental breakdown and then be like, oh yeah, that guy. Anything could happen. In his case, can't even happen. So, not saying that Amelia Clark, she had some medical problems, so I don't want to like get on her. I didn't want to. Yeah. No, she's a wonderful actress. I'm just making a joke about probabilities here. It is probable I run into her and she falls in love with me. It's not likely. I wouldn't even put it in the realm of remotely possible, but it's not impossible, which is this guy's situation. That's how I want to phrase that.
So your odds are better than impossible.
Yeah, my 1 in a gajillion are better than his 0 in a gajillion.
Well, that's optimism here on Gossip Finance.
Well, that's reality in math worlds. So let's do this little fun thing. So let's say, hypothetically, he can get the money and save it, right? Just to show kind of where Dave's coming from here on this. And he can do that. And I'm engaged to Amelia Clark. So everybody's getting what they want in this scenario. So
what do I want in this scenario?
All right. Okay. I'm just saying for the average person, he would get. I'm just going to do average, right? Average person gets about $1,700 a month at full retirement age of 67. Okay, right now. Okay, and anyone born after 1960. So if he took it at 62, he'd be getting $1,300 because he took it early, right? Because he took it 5 years earlier, right? And then you have to factor in the cost of living adjustment. I assume 2%, which is kind of low because I think it's 6% this year because of inflation. But I just assume 2% to make it easy, right? Mm-hmm. So if he took that $1,300 a month with a 2% cost of living increase for 5 years, he could save, adjusting for that, about $81,000, right? And so if I assume that his Social Security, according to Social Security, his life expectancy is about 84, right, for a male. So he would have that money for 17 years. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to say he took that money, and I'm going to use Dave. Dave likes to assume 12% interest, right, on an investment, which is ridiculous because the last 20 years, the market return on the S&P is about 7.5. But, you know, Dave likes to tell you he gets 12 every year. So I'm going to give Dave the benefit of the doubt and say 12. So if he'd have done that for 5 years and invested it, he'd have $115,011 after 5 years. Okay? And if he took that money and he still got 12% going forward for the next 17 years he spent it, he'd have $1,346 a month, or $274,584 total over the 17 years, just by taking it early and investing it, which was Dave's recommendation, right? Which, you know, Social Security at 67, if he'd have waited till 67 and taken it, the Social Security increase would have been only 131,000. So yeah, Dave's right. He'd have been a lot better taking it and investing it over 17 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is he's probably not going to get that return. With old people, you definitely don't want to, especially people withdrawing money, you don't want to put them in high risk investments like the market. So in reality, his return's probably closer to 5. It's actually probably closer to 3 or 4, because you're trying to protect his money. You don't want to put him in high risk. You want to.
But my little Dave predictor would say Dave would not dial down that risk factor. He would keep them in the market.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And I'm going to get into why that's psychotic here in a second. Yeah.
I just want to throw out there that, like,
yeah,
this philosophical difference that is key here is that Dave would say not to dial down the risk factor. My opinion is to each their own, but like understand what, you know, that means that you're doing, and don't let somebody put you on some sort of autopilot thing like that. If you're going to stay in the market, make sure you really understand what that means.
Sure. So let me just finish this real quick, and then so if I'm going to assume 67, the actual 10-year average return would be close to 5 on a portfolio for somebody that age. He'd have saved, instead of $115,000 with investment on his 5%, he'd have saved $94,000, which means instead of $1,346, he'd be getting $695 a month, which would be closer to $141,774, which still is better than the $131,000 he'd get from Social Security. But the Social Security is guaranteed and is backed by the federal government, as opposed to the investment, which could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's why it is so crazy to sit there and go, let's stay in the market and stay in the high risk investment when you're older, right? And this becomes an issue when you start withdrawing. So I started this graph here that I'm going to do. It's 2 graphs. And I picked 2 couples. One couple that invested over the last 17 years, because that's from retirement to average death, right? So they started investing in whatever it was, 2007 or 2006, right? To today, right? And they had $150,000 to invest, and they invested it in the market, in the S&P 500, right? And I took each year's return for 17 years, right? To show you what they'd have at the end. And then what I did was I took each year's return and I flipped it upside down and did it backwards. I inverted it. And couple 2 got the inverted investments per year, starting with this year going backwards. So if you take that, couple 1 over here, if they actually followed Dave's plan in 2006 and started investing, and they had 150,000, put it in the market, and they needed to withdraw 12,000 a year in retirement, so 1,000 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
By year 17, they'd be almost 12,000 in the hole. And by year 16, they'd have been out of money. They'd have been in the hole. But couple 2 invested, and they did it backwards. I just flipped the numbers. Same situation, 150,000, took out 12,000. But the market was better earlier on than it was here. right? So by the end, they still have $144,000. So just to show you, couple one invested in 2006, followed Dave's plan, and their retirement savings was gone before year 16. Couple two follows Dave's plan, but we did it in reverse from the years where the market was good the first few years while they were drawing the money. And they did really well. And actually, they were up for a while until the market went down again. And they ended up still with about the same amount of money. Exact same. The only difference is what was the market doing?
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that, okay, I'm going to put my client in and have them invest in the market when they're in their 60s and they need to start withdrawing that money at some point. And I'm just going to trust that I can predict the future. Oh, I know what the market's going to do 3 years from now. No, you're going to put them in something much, much more secure. Something that's not going to be as risky. That's not going to track with the market. And the reason you're going to do that is because as they're withdrawing that money, they don't run out of money quickly. Because if the market is bad for a couple of years while they're withdrawing money, they're selling low and they're getting screwed. But Dave doesn't consider any of that. And that's why that's insane. We'll get more into that in the next video when we talk about investing strategies and how that works. Because it's different when you're putting money in versus when you're pulling money out.
I think that would be a really fun sort of, probably multiple shows to do the putting in versus taking out sort of philosophy, because we spent many, many years sort of working on the philosophy of putting in, and then the taking out kind of eludes us. And actually, there's really not always enough guidance and education around how you're supposed to go about that part.
Yeah, there's generic strategies about how to do that are probably the smart move most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's typically what most financial advisors would do. Is as you got older, they would try to squeeze the risk down, right? Because they don't want your portfolio to fluctuate up and down as much. So, like for example, the S&P 500 has a volatility, what we call standard deviation, of 15%. So right now, average return is 7.5. Now that means if the standard deviation is 15%, that means in a good year it could be up, statistically likely to be up around 22.5%, or it could easily be down, that 15% from 7. So whatever that is, I haven't figured it out. 7.5, 15. So down 7%. And that would be a statistically normal year. You could either lose 7 or be up 22 or anywhere in between. But that's really volatile. Now, if I had an average 7.5% return and I could squeeze that to a risk factor of, say, a standard deviation of 5%, well, that means at any given year, my client could be up 12.5, or they could be up 2.5. But it's a lot safer if they're withdrawing money. And over the long run, you statistically tend to make more money in down years. Make a lot more money because it's harder to make up money than it is. Right?
Totally true.
Yeah.
Completely.
So let's run through the last of this little rant because he says some other stupid things here. I want to close up. But I think, real quick, for the cage match, I think that's a win. Because he didn't know the guy probably wasn't going to get it, A, and B, didn't understand the risk of investing it.
All right, and so we don't count mine as wins or losses, but I'm going to count mine. I'm going to put it in the win column because
predictability. You called it. Take it early, invest it.
I was absolutely able to predict what he would say. Right now, I think I'm 2 for 2.
Oh, I'm 3 for 3 now.
Oh, yeah. we had your one off of, so put you in,
3 for 3.
Well, we're both at 100% right now. Let's see if we can keep this up. I don't know.
Undefeated.